Today we're going to delve into a question that, at some point, we've all asked ourselves. Why does suffering exist? And more specifically, why does God, being loving and all-powerful, allow pain in the lives of his children? Suffering is an undeniable reality. Illness, loss, betrayal, disappointment. All of us, to a greater or lesser extent, have experienced the weight of pain. But as Christians, we have a unique perspective on this issue. We don't see suffering as an end in itself, but as a means that God uses to fulfill his purposes in our lives. Today, we'll explore how suffering draws us closer to God and why, even when we don't always understand it, we can trust that he works all things for our good. The Bible is no stranger to the topic of suffering. In fact, it's filled with stories of men and women who faced great trials. Think of Job, a righteous man who lost everything, his possessions, his health, and even his children. Or Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, and then unjustly imprisoned. But in each of these stories, there's a common thread. God was working behind the scenes. Job, at the end of his trial, declared, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." Job 42:5. Joseph, years later, told his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Genesis 50:20. Suffering, though painful, was the means God used to reveal himself to them in a deeper and more transformative way. In Romans 8:28, the Apostle Paul gives us a promise that is a beacon of hope in the midst of the storm. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. This verse doesn't say that all things are good, but that God can use all things, even suffering, for our good. But how is this possible? Suffering has a purpose. It refines us like fire refines gold. It humbles us, reminding us that we are not self-sufficient. And it draws us closer to God, because in the midst of pain, we cry out for his presence more than ever. Imagine for a moment that you never faced any difficulties. What kind of person would you be? Probably someone self-sufficient, proud, and distant from God. Suffering, though it may not seem like it, is a tool that God uses to shape our character. In 2 Corinthians 1:3-4, Paul describes God as the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Suffering not only transforms us, but it also equips us to be instruments of comfort and hope for others. When we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we learn to extend a hand to those going through the same. We can't talk about suffering without looking at Jesus. He, being perfect, chose to suffer for us. On the cross, he bore the weight of our sins and experienced the deepest pain anyone could imagine. But that suffering was not in vain. It was through his pain that the path to our redemption was opened. Jesus teaches us that suffering is not the end of the story. After the cross came the resurrection. After the pain came the glory. And that's precisely what awaits us, a future where there will be no more tears, no more pain, and no more death. Revelation 21:4. So if you're going through a time of pain today, I want to encourage you not to lose hope. God hasn't abandoned you. He's with you in the midst of the storm, working silently, transforming your pain into something beautiful. Remember the words of Romans 8:18. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Suffering is not eternal, but what God is doing in you through it is. So trust his purpose. Cry out to him in the midst of your pain. And remember that even when you don't understand the why, you can rest in the who, a God who loves you, who sustains you, and who has a perfect plan for your life. Thank you for joining us in this episode of La Voz del Principio. If this message has been a blessing to you, don't forget to share it with someone who needs it. Until next time.